Hello, welcome to Miss IJ's Kids Inclusive Podcast. My name is Anyaoku-Popoola, and you can call me IJ. I will be your host. On this podcast, we'll be talking about the stigma individuals with special needs face on a day-to-day basis on the continent of Africa. We'll be bringing to you professionals in the disability field, sharing resources and information that can benefit any educator, parent, caregiver, and community with persons with disabilities. Join me on this journey in spreading hope and resilience as we advocate for inclusive education on the beautiful continent of Africa. Hey guys, this is Anyaoku-Popoola, host of the Miss IJ's Kids Inclusive Podcast, and I'm here today with a very special guest. She's a friend and really a true advocate for anything that has to do with raising awareness for children and persons with disabilities. Her name is Miss Amy Bazan. Welcome to the show. And so, Amy, I would love you to tell a little bit about yourself and maybe even get into how we know each other, but just who you are, what you do, just so that the listeners and the viewers can find out more about you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to just get to chat with you. It's my favorite thing to do. But yeah, so I'm Amy Bazan. I am a mother of three. IJ, you and I go way back. We love to cook together and, generally hang out and have extremely deep conversations.
Yes, it's never surface with us. It's always deep.
Always deep conversations. Mm-hmm. So I'm a mother of three. My oldest one, is on the spectrum as well as my youngest. We decided about 3 or 4 years ago to begin homeschooling. So I'm also their teacher at home of my younger two. Right. Let's see, I'm a business owner, entrepreneur, all those lovely things, and recently gotten to meet with you and your lovely colleagues with Green Onyx Foundation as well.
Yes. Shout out to Green Onyx. Thank you so much. And so it's important that the viewers and the listeners know that the reason why we connect so much and we resonate is because not only are you an advocate, but from a parent's perspective, you have lived, experienced, loved, dealt with the challenges of what it is to support a child living with disabilities. And so I know our viewers mostly might be in Africa, or actually different parts of the world. And I know that the show talks about disabilities in Africa. But the reason why I wanted to bring you on today is because I wanted to talk about the importance of empathy. And with disabilities, honestly, you can be in Africa, you can be in the United States, you can be in the, UAE. A disability is a disability, having challenges. So I think that's what connects us all and makes us such a global community. But you have been such a fighter for why empathy is so important. And you talked about the connection with disability in this field. Why do you think empathy is such a huge factor in working with children as a parent, as an educator, as a community, with anyone living with disabilities?
Well, I think you said the right thing there. You said community. So as a parent of, kids on the spectrums, kids with multiple differentiations of abilities, okay, right. Our biggest, most important resource is our community, our support group, our team. So the only way to tap into that is by gaining empathy. I've worked with Autism Oklahoma for years, a couple of decades, really. And
shout out to Autism Oklahoma, doing big things in Oklahoma City.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's been such a truly, that was my learning grounds. Of just seeing the family, seeing their needs, seeing how they interacted with one another, seeing how the community interacted with them, learning from the parents and the support groups on how they bolstered together to support the parents in the schools, in the community, in, outside of their normal day-to-day as far as like camps and that sort of thing. And all of it was just that guiding factor was empathy. It was, we see that you're struggling. We see that you're having a hard time. We see that not every intersection of your life is inclusive. And so we want to create safe spaces. We want to create safe communities.
Right.
So that we are supporting the child or the adult, sometimes the parents, the family as a whole.
Right.
And that just ripples out.
Right.
It literally ripples out through influence and example.
Right. Beautiful point. Thinking of empathy, we know empathy as understanding and sharing one's feelings. Not necessarily sympathy, but really putting yourselves in someone else's shoes. And a lot of people don't understand how to raise awareness for people living with disabilities, like you said, with your community, people on the spectrum. So what is a great way that we as a community can connect with people living with disabilities through that spirit of empathy, wherever we are, whether it's on the continent of Africa or in the United States? Because again, a disability is a disability and we learn from one another.
Right. And, I think, when you're speaking about empathy and the community within the differently abled body here in the US, it's easier to speak to.
Yes.
It's a much harder playing field when you get into other countries.
Different places, and absolutely.
Right. So I think, I've thought about this and what it really comes down to me is that we have to encourage the parents and the community that there's a place for our differently abled friends.
Amen.
They have a place. They have a role. They are important people within our communities. Right. They have thoughts, feelings, dreams, ideas. They're artists. They are innovators. They are, filmmakers. I've watched groups doing amazing things. And I think that once you convince, their family and the surrounding peers and the community that they're important, they have a place, they can do great things.
Absolutely.
Then you start gaining that empathy, because I think that the stigma is that they don't have a place. They don't have a purpose because they have been pushed to the background. They have been pushed out of the scene time and time again for as far back as anybody can think of. Now we know differently. Now we know that there is a place for differently abled people.
Such an amazing point. You have my head just doing that. Yes. And really speaking through empathy. And this is why I really just wanted you on the show, because I enjoy you as a friend, but you are such an advocate for why we have to see people as, differently abled people as part of the community. That's part of the diversity in any nation. They have so much to bring. And with today's climate, not to touch on some political things, but there is change going on in today's climate, and why inclusion is so important, and why I felt like, post the George Floyd and everything that's going on previously and now, inclusion is important. And sometimes, our people in the field of disability, we're slowly coming to the front, even in other nations. And so in today's culture, I like how you say how connecting with people who have certain disabilities is important. To bring it more to a very personal place, how have you been able to connect? And if you don't mind asking, even with your children, because there are a lot of parents too who listen to this podcast, how can we connect with our children? Because again, whether you're in Africa or in the United States or wherever, a heart is a heart, a feeling is a feeling. Feeling sad is the same. Feeling happy is the same. Having joy is the same. So just as a person and as a human being, how can we connect with our children? Because some parents, when they know that their child is born and might have a disability, it could be very crushing. Or you find out in the classroom, that could be very demoralizing. How do you connect, with your child or just as a person?
Well, I think it's a huge challenge, especially for families and individuals that don't feel like they have a support group, that they don't maybe feel like they live in a country that supports them or a community that supports them. But I think that the most important thing that that has really clicked for me, no matter where I'm at, no matter what we're doing, is connecting with my child by understanding. I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this, but I think I just want to simply say, look at them.
Right.
Look at their face. What is their face telling you? What are they trying to speak to you, even if they're not verbal?
Verbal, exactly.
Even if they haven't quite figured out those words, the social words. If we become good listeners to our children, even if it's not verbal, we can listen to them. We can feel them. That's that empathy, tapping into that, becoming an empath. That can, come with a lot of different connotations, but I think just on a one-to-one, we can look at our children. We can see what causes them pain, discomfort, joy, what's starting to ramp them up, what calms them down. Is it physical touch? Is it a quiet place? Learning that their language. Yes. They all have their own little language with us. Learning their language, implementing their language. You can build an action plan just within your house based on their language. And you can in turn teach them your language.
Exactly.
Because it goes both ways. And you can, let them know, okay, I need a break, or I need you find your little ways of speaking to them about your needs, and also letting them know that how important their needs are to you. And you'll find success within that. Right. Not every day. We know that. There's going to be days everybody needs to go to their corner. And
you made such a good point. No.
But when you're your child's safe place, when you have created that for them, then there will be success within that.
This is going to probably segue into my next question, is those challenges, because we know that, like you said, it's not going to be every day. We might have some highs today and we might have some lows. And, what do we do when we get to those lows in terms of connecting with our kids and some of the challenges and just really being real and speaking to, the hearts of mothers and parents. And, what do you do when you just feel like it's such a hard day? Yeah. And like you said, it might be harder for other parents who are on the continent when you're battling with things like we don't have light, or we don't have water, or, we don't have food, and still you have to take care of children who have certain disabilities. So what would you say, and how would you speak to the heart of some of the parents who really are going through those challenges in those times from your experience?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say, I love that I've gotten to connect with that community, with your community of people that are experienced with individuals and families with limited resources in different countries. And I'm just honored to get to learn and be a part of that. That being said, it's, a lot of the stuff can be really simple. When you've hit your limit for the day, which all of us have, we've all, even mothers of neurotypical kids, we've hit our limit. I think it's extremely important to, first of all, have a language for that. Yeah. Come up ahead of time with phrases, words that let your family know. Yes. And allow you to have a voice, because we don't want to lose our voice. We don't want our children to lose their voice. We don't want to lose ours. Yes. And I don't mean physically. I mean,
just our connection and emotional. Yeah. Yes.
So it's come up with those phrases ahead of time, whatever it is, mom's having a hard day, dad's having a hard day, where, I've hit my limit for the day, or, can you look at my face? My face says that I need some kindness. I see your face and it says, you need kindness. You need a break. What can we do for each other? Pre-planning some activities, some quiet zone activities, something special that you kind of keep in the, back pocket, that can be an individual activity or an almost individual activity. Not every child is able to do that, but, and just calling on your helpers, have at least one person, that gets it, that gets you, that even if it's just, I need you for 10 minutes on a phone, even if it's that minimal, do it, because it will help. Ideally you have somebody that can swoop in and take over for a little bit, let you have an hour of alone time, something like that. And also taking advantage of times that they are with others or in school or, that sort of thing when they're with other caretakers, that you can do something kind for yourself, even if it's just a cup of tea and a book. Those types of things can be really refueling and boost you. Have a little list of things that you can choose from if it's hard to think of in the moment. But just remember that you're not alone.
Yeah.
There are thousands of parents just like you dealing with the same things with varying resources. And we see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We see you.
Yeah, that's amazing. I remember one of my students in my class who was nonverbal, but he had a way of letting me know when he needed to take a break and take a nap. And he would just, touch my hand a certain way. And I just knew as his teacher that that's what he wanted. And we would just take a break. Oh. And that was so huge because as an educator, it helped us with his learning. And so if we didn't have to push anything for the day or do any educating in terms of math and, language arts and things like that, we will just stop and we will take a break. And that's huge. Something else you said that's huge is a community, your tribe, who are your tribe of moms, who you trust, who will know that, okay, it's time that my friend Amy needs some self-care. So I'm going to step in and help, or I'm going to step in and do something for them. But having that tribe of helpers is very important. And I think with the stigma sometimes, it's very easy to go into your corner and want to be alone, especially if you feel like no one is going to understand. Yeah. And we want you, I guess Amy and I say we want you to do the opposite, is to reach out to someone who is trusted. And I'm guessing that has worked for you over the years with raising your children. Yeah, absolutely.
I've varying degrees. I've two on the spectrum, and they're vastly different from each other. Wow. So what works for one doesn't work for the other. And I've hit my limit.
Yeah.
I've probably hit my limit last week.
No.
And it's just, you gotta take that time, you gotta take that breath, you gotta take that space, have your trusted people that can, swoop in and hold you up and, so you can get back in the game, because at the end of the day, we're their people.
Yeah.
The kids, we're their people, and they need us. And, we know them better than anybody does.
Right.
And we have their best interest at heart always.
Yeah, that's important. Switching over to education, how has it been for you? And again, sharing as much as you want to share. I want the Inclusive Podcast to be a safe place for people who we talk to and have conversation with. But in terms of school, what has been the ups and the lows with our kids? Because now you said you're homeschooling, and what led to that decision, and just from your experience, because I know everyone's is different.
Yeah, everybody's different, and I have friends and family who've had great success in public schools. We didn't experience that success. My oldest, she's 21 now, and went to public school all through schooling. And the older she got, the harder it got. The harder the communication got, the harder the understanding, the empathy. We got less and less and less. And it came with a lot of hair pulling moments. And I think if I had it my way, I would have gone ahead and homeschooled her earlier or pulled her out of public school and homeschooled. She was very involved in musical theater, choir, arts, those types of things. And so I didn't feel like at the time, I didn't feel confident that I could replace her activities on my own. And it was very, very important for her. So I just continued to try with the public school. Every year it's going to vary city to city. The level of support that you receive based on the level of education that each individual school gets, each individual teacher, aide, all of those sorts of things. It's really, really going to vary. So I think with my youngest, I learned the most, I guess. With my oldest, I feel like I learned all the things not to do.
And it happens sometimes. We're moms. It happens.
And then with my youngest, I learned the things that work. Things that work. It's like, all right, we won. We got this one. We got this. So, I kind of figured out that if you can get in early as possible, don't wait. If you think something's going on with your child, just assume it is, and it's okay. Don't worry, because you can always do less, but it's hard to add more. If you know what I'm saying. The public school, the IEPs, the 504s, it's better to start with more than what you need. Right. So, with my youngest, we had a lot of successes. We had a lot of administrators and teachers and principals and SPED teachers that were on our side, that wanted to see her succeed, because we started so young. We started with her in kindergarten. We seeing things in pre-K really, and probably in earlier, but we started her testing in pre-K, and we're able to get all of her accommodations in place for kindergarten. And really maybe a little before. Sorry, my memory's a little fuzzy on that, but we had really good success with her accommodations. Now, once we decided to pull out of public school, when my middle daughter was going to go into middle school, that was kind of my dividing line. That was kind of my, we're not crossing that line, because like I said, the older they get, the harder the accommodations get. It was a new school, new group of teachers, all that. I thought, you know what, once she gets out of 5th grade, we're all going to go home and do homeschooling. So when I got, after our first year of school at home, we ran into one of our old teachers. It was wonderful. We were really happy to see her. She was Olivia. Olivia's my youngest. She was Olivia's aide. And Olivia said hi to her, and they had a couple of exchanges. And she said, wow, I've never heard her voice.
Wow.
She's doing so well. And she was nothing but compliments, but it crushed me. It crushed my heart, because all I heard was, I've never heard her voice. And so I knew we had been skating along under the radar. She's this, she gets by because she's so sweet and easy. And, her meltdowns are very, there's, a nice little like sequence of events that can take place to help her manage her meltdowns. She's much easier to get back to a stabilized zone. And so she was totally under the radar. And so I just thought, oh my gosh, I have absolutely made the right choice.
The right decision.
My daughter had no voice.
Oh my goodness.
And at home she was flourishing. And so, it just was, I left and I literally cried, because I was like, oh, my daughter had no voice at school. And so, then it made me go, gosh, how long did we make mistakes with my oldest? How long were we just beating our heads, trying to come up with accommodations that worked, when really we should have just pulled her home or made a change schools, did something different. Don't be afraid to change it up. Don't feel pigeonholed into the school zone or school, district that you're in. it's easier said and done in the US than other places. But
no, I appreciate you saying that.
You know, I think that every child is so different. Every child is so individual that blanket coverage, that blanket, this is how we do things with special needs kids. Work. It just doesn't work.
It just, it fails us. It fails us every time. And it's everywhere. And I like what you said about, when you said about the voice, I sunk in my chair because I was like, oh my goodness. And the hard decisions that parents who have children who are on the spectrum or, you know, have disabilities, those hard decisions, like you know that you're at a point where you have to make a hard decision, and it is so hard, but somehow the universe has a way of vindicating you at the end of the day.
I hope so.
No, it does, because like you said, that was a confirmation that you as a mom and as parents made the best decision for your child. And so, you know, there are parts of Nigeria where we don't have inclusive schools. And so you do have to send your child to, they might call them inclusive unit schools or special schools. And again, you have to work with what the community and the government has at the time. Here in the States, it is by law that if you have a disability, you cannot reject a child from going to school. In other parts of Africa, it is not that way. You might have to go to a special school. And but kids don't have the social interaction, because part of their development is that, the success in any child's development and diversity is that you know how to interact with, for instance, a student who is hearing impaired. Because when you grow up as an adult, you won't know how to work with a person who was hearing impaired, because you never got that experience, because they were always sheltered away in a school or in a place or in a home. They're never part of society. And, you know, we're hoping that with this podcast, it'll be a tool to help all of us be more inclusive in everything that we're doing. But, you know, those hard decisions as parents, it's hard. You know, some parents in Nigeria have to pull their kids out of school because maybe their child with disability gets abused, because educators don't know how to work with them, and they have no choice but to keep them at home. But they don't get any education at home. And it's not really a fault of the parents. It's like, what do we do? So I mean,
limited resources,
very limited. And then, you know, I wish that homeschooling was 100% available and supported in many parts of Africa, because it's also good. It's good. You know, my kids were homeschooled for a while too. Sir, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go talk.
Oh, no, it is. I was just going to say, you know, I think that I wish it hadn't. I think in a perfect world, obviously, parents and teachers could work together to create plans. You know, obviously that's what an IEP is supposed to be. That's what
we're a parent, we're a team.
We're a team. But what I've found more often than not is that the information about your child gets kind of gate kept. You know, there's because of laws in place in the US, that sort of thing. There's some gatekeeping to your child's information. And what I think would be lovely, what would be amazing, is if the schools were allowed to have more access to your child's information, not in a way where their, medical information is compromised or anything. But I remember having multiple conversations with different teachers who were saying, well, I didn't know anything about that.
Right.
I wasn't made aware of that. You know, with my oldest, she was in high school, they have 4 or 5 teachers a day. I would have email a teacher. Oh, well, I didn't even know she had an IEP. And I'm going, so I almost feel like in countries that don't have as many, structures and laws set up, there's almost, this is an uninformed opinion. I want to preface that. This is just, okay, if we could come in earlier and do things a little better before there are roadblocks in place. Wouldn't it be nice if the parents and teachers could really work hand in hand without so many middlemen to create plans for the kids that worked better, so that the teachers feel like they can, reach out to the parents feel like they can reach out to the teachers. That's where that empathy comes into play. That's where that community comes into play, is building that trust and team for yourself, not depending on, administration to build it for you. Understanding that you can become friends with, in a professional way, your child's educators and caregivers, and just really show them how to understand and love your child.
I like that. And segueing into my next question is, how can parents be their child's best fierce advocate, whether it is in school or in the community, or, going to the market or the supermarket to get something, and, you run into some of those challenges. But how can parents be their child's best advocate from your experience and what you know, and as a mom, a parent?
So I think the thing that, helped me the most was, gosh, I don't want to say it, but education. I educated myself. I felt like I was in college because I thought, oh my gosh, I have to overnight become an expert in IEPs and 504s and, special needs laws and all those things, so that I can advocate for my child, not just so I can be good at it, so I just basically can. Because in the US especially, the system depends on parental ignorance. It just does. There's not enough resources. There's not enough teachers. There's not enough hours, not enough manpower, excuse me. They depend on the people who don't seek it all, who don't ask for everything. Wow. You have to be the parent that asks for everything. Look through my notes here. I have a book that I would highly recommend. I think it's called From Emotions to Advocacy. Yes, this. I'll find it and then I'll give the.
Please. They'll put it in the comments.
Okay, yeah. From Emotions to Advocacy. It basically just spells out what your rights are as parents and children, parents of special needs children, so that you can feel confident, asking for the accommodations, where it's allowed, as far as geographically where, you're protected by these laws. But even without those laws, just knowing some of these things, some of the key phrases, all the terminology, knowing that it's okay to ask for this. It's okay to ask for my child to have an aid for this activity or lunch or bathrooms, or an all-day aid. That's available to a lot of people. So feeling confident in that, when you sit down at that table for an IEP meeting or an accommodations meeting or 504, you come in with that knowledge, you come in with that confidence, you'll be respected. And you won't have to argue and fight for what your child deserves, what the laws protect for them.
Exactly.
So I would say educate yourself. Read, find groups, read. Go to college yourself.
YouTube University, read.
But you don't have to. I did not. I just, there are some amazing books out there, but I would start with that one, the From Emotions to Advocacy, and go from there, because the more the less people are going to be able to take advantage of you and your family. And not that they would try to, but the thought process is, we don't have enough. They are always operating out of lack. And so you have to make them step up. You have to make the state step up, or, whatever, wherever the funding is coming from, you've got to make them step up. That's the best thing you can do.
Oh, that is amazing. So, knowing what you know now, like you said, I'd like to say that Amy has been really supportive to, me as a friend and to other people that I know. And we've often talked about the disparities and the challenges of inclusive education on the continent of Africa. But knowing what you know now from talking to me and reading books and doing your own personal research and knowing people, what can you say to parents living right now on the continent of Africa, different parts of Africa, who feel hopeless and who feel unsupported? Just from your heart, what can you say to them to encourage them through this podcast?
I just I want them to know they're not alone. I want them to know that, an ocean may separate us, but we're thinking of you.
Yeah.
You're on our hearts. You are cared about. We care about your children. We care about their inclusivity. Yeah. Hang in there. Yeah. It doesn't always get easier, but every day is a new day. Yeah. Your challenge yesterday is over. Yeah. Today is the new challenge.
It's a new day. Right.
Don't connect the dots into the future and try to solve next week's problems. Yeah. Just take it a day at a time and know that you're not alone. And sometimes that's all you have. And I hate that because I wish there was more. I wish that, there was worldwide coverage of special needs inclusivity and equal education. Maybe one day we'll get there. But just know that you're not alone, and don't stay silent. Mm-hmm. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't try to hide what you're dealing with, because I promise you someone cares. Yeah. Someone in your community cares enough to at least talk, to at least be there for you in that way. And, finding, if you have internet access, finding, support groups, online friends can be the best friends because they get you, and that's okay.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. And as a mom, I know that was like the courage for everyone, but, just as a mom, I resonate with a lot of mothers who have children with special needs. And I think we are in ourselves such an international community, and we thankful for the internet and for technology where it's available. People can connect with, Autism Oklahoma, and which I will leave some of that information in the links, because in Nigeria, for instance, we're starting to focus more on, those invisible disabilities that really go unheard of, unspoke of, and, just not seen. So, just as a mom, mom to mom, talking to other moms, like, what would be just your last words of sage wisdom to other mothers who have children who are on the spectrum and are, just really need, just a loving word of encouragement, which goes such a long way.
It does. It really does. I've many, many times been in a place where I just really needed somebody to encourage me. And that's, just to get you to the end of the day. Sometimes all you're waiting for is just that end of the day, the pillow, the bed, turn the lights off. Okay.
Just go to bed.
We did it.
This again tomorrow. Yeah. We made it.
Yeah. But, I think that I just want to encourage people to not be intimidated by what you don't know. I have been many, many times. And then once I kind of overcame that hurdle, I was like, oh gosh, this isn't as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
You are intelligent. You're strong. You're smart. You are powerful. You're entrusted with these little lives that have so much. They have so much to give. They have so much to give us, their community, the world. You never know where their life is going to go. Yeah. Don't discount them. Don't discount yourself. Don't be intimidated to ask, to reach out. Feel empowered that you are entrusted with this child, which means you're their number one front of the line person. That nobody can do better than you. Nobody can do better than you. And I think whenever I owned that confidence, it improved my motherhood. It just was like, nobody can do this better than me. I'm their mom. Who would want to do this better than me? So I think I want to impart that. I want to impart that confidence and just don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You guys are powerful. Your children are powerful. And I just want everyone to really absorb that and just to know that there's a community of people behind you all over the world.
Thanks for listening to Miss IJ's Kids Inclusive Podcast this week. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so on our website at www.ijpopoola.com. Or if you want to write to us about topics you would love to hear covered on the show, the email address is popoloijelma@gmail.com, one word. And if you'd like to follow us on our social media pages, it's at Miss IJ's Kids. I am IJ Popoola, and you've listened to Miss IJ's Kids Inclusive Podcast.